Estocolmo 1520. Es una historia donde las mujeres son las heroínas. ¿Cómo ha sido este papel para vosotros y cómo habéis podido pues conseguir pues empoderaros en esta época?
It's a nice question. Yeah, I mean, obviously as an actor, you go away and you do your homework and your research, you learn about the story, but I think kind of what this film is saying is there's huge blanks for the women, and both a real person, Christina, and my character, Anne, who is fictional, are put in incredibly high-stakes situations where there is no precedent. They're making the rules up as they go, and they're having to work out how to navigate this kind of barbaric male-driven landscape. So just playing that in itself is empowering.
La película combina una visión moderna con el humor negro. ¿Creéis que este enfoque ayudará al público a entender la historia?
As we were saying earlier, it makes quite an intense time in history, more digestible, and there's a playful aspect to it. So.
Yeah. And also there are so many characters, it's such a vast story that I think with the humour you're able to grasp onto things a bit more, and it gives it real energy as opposed to being, oh my gosh, there's so much happening and it's really dark. So yeah, I think that modern freshness and the dry humour is very helpful.
Bueno, hablando de lo que ya he dicho, que hay como muchos personajes, ¿no? Me llama la atención que todos los personajes además están como presentados y con alias. ¿Creen que así va a ser más fácil que los espectadores puedan ubicar a los personajes dentro de la película?
I don't necessarily think it's particularly even for the audience, but it's for Anne as well, those nicknames. And, you know, there are a bunch of silly boys. It's like boys at school that give each other nicknames. Like, it's so daft. You know, they're doing these, like, murderous, vile, disgusting things, and yet they're kind of really silly boys. You know, they're joking around being completely vile, but also for Anne as well. Anne isn't necessarily interested in their full name. You know, she went on her kill list. You know, she writes them down in a more colloquial way. I think it's part of the humour of the film. It's not necessarily and poking fun at them.
Yes, and Claire's and Troller play it so well. So aided by also, especially Claire's costumes are so humorous.
Yeah.
Something kind of.
Yeah, it leans into the absurdity of it.
Bueno, y ahora quiero preguntar, la película, pues al final es, pues como dice el nombre, es un baño de sangre, ¿no? ¿Cómo ha sido prepararse para este tipo de escenas? Que al final, pues, es que hay muchas escenas como muy fuertes.
Emocionalmente, ¿no?
Sí, o sea, muy fuertes de que hay mucha sangre.
Well, luckily our job as actors is to pretend.
We don't know.
But you know, it's really heavy and it's really dark. But I think when you're doing these things, you have to, or at least I try and approach every scene in the same way. Like, what's the truth of the situation? I've never, thank God, been in a situation like that. So you draw on the things that you can in your own life, and you imagine what it would be like to be there, and that's made possible by a brilliant director and other great playful actors. But yeah, it is really intense and it's hard doing stuff like that, which is why I think the mix of humour works so well, because definitely in my life, when I've had really horrible things happen to me, humour is always there. It's often one of the first things we call on to kind of make ourselves feel okay.
It's like a survival.
It is, yeah. So I think it's a clever device.
Yeah.
Bueno, como dicen ellas, es como, al final, pues como unas escenas muy feas, muy...
Sí,
¿no?
y que ellas integran el humor en su vida
Claro.
También como una forma de supervivencia.
Exacto. ¿Cómo o sea, creen que el humor puede ayudar a, bueno, no normalizar, pero como a suavizar este tipo de escenas?
I think it cuts through. I think it gives it more balance. I think no one... It's just... Mikhail doesn't want to make a film like that. He doesn't want it to be a violent, you know, it's about finding the absurdity in life. That's what the humour does.
Y hablando un poco del director, de
Miquel.
¿cómo ha sido trabajar con él?
I've worked with Mikhail on a couple of movies before, and he's always been so lovely. He's such a really sweet, supportive, playful director, and Yeah.
super
So-
calm
Yes.
in anything, in a
And
you know
even your
in
battle scenes.
a battlefield with like explosions going off and horses going in every direction. Mikhail's just so calm, which is very unusual in a film like that. In a in chaotic times like that, you often get a lot of shouting, and that's not Mikhail.
Y bueno, hablando un poco o sea, ahora de manera como independiente, me gustaría preguntarle a Sophie sobre su personaje, cómo ha sido prepararse el personaje y bueno, al final es un personaje que está como muy enfocado en la venganza, ¿no?
Yeah, she is, but I think it's nice as a character to have a very clear motive, very clear objective, and she's not going to let anything get in her way, and that's very exciting to play. I enjoy playing determined, headstrong women, but also, you know, there was working out. She has a very clear but seemingly almost impossible objective. She's got no training. She's not a warrior, so it's a very interesting journey. And amongst all of that, she's in love. She's losing her family. It's a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of different compartments. There's a historical research. So it's all about piecing those bits together. But yeah, and she's humorous as well. Not just the dry humour that you get later on, but I think she has a real sense of adventure and curiosity even before all of this happens. So it's fun watching all of the women actually kind of come into their own.
Y luego a Emily me gustaría preguntarle también sobre su personaje, sobre cómo ha sido prepararse, pues al final, bueno, ella es la reina, ¿no? Y su personaje es muy importante dentro de la época. ¿Cómo ha sido prepararse este personaje tan importante dentro de la época, siendo mujer, en una época, pues al final que es de hombres, ¿no?
Well, first of all, start off with research and see what information there is about her. It's a reasonable amount. She's quite a revered figure in Sweden, and but of course there's a lot of gap filling that you have to do. It's often slightly minimal information about the women's part in history, because often the documented is the battle scenes and the murders and the physical
Body
action.
count.
Yeah, the body count, which the men were involved in. So she's very all the diplomacy and the constant navigating that she has to do between her and King Christian, and she takes over from her husband, who is a regent of Sweden, Sten, and so she goes through a lot of heartache, but also a lot of the dynamics between them all. It's often a bit of a power shift and struggle and trying to do her best for Sweden, and yeah.
She calls them all her children, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
Y bueno, me gustaría preguntar sobre lo que acaba de mencionar, que al final en la historia, pues la parte de la mujer siempre que ha quedado como ¿no? más eclipsada, cómo ha sido como todo ese proceso de documentarse y cómo han podido encontrar como pues esos documentos, ¿no? Que les ayuden a prepararse el papel.
Yeah, well, it figures that there's quite limited information in from the 1500s. Yeah, well, I guess you do what you can, you find out what you can, and
Imagine the rest.
yeah, and I guess it's kind of common sense and imagination and figuring out the dynamics.
Yeah, but
behind the
I always
scenes.
think like when you're playing someone historical, you don't go to work thinking I'm playing someone historical. You go to work thinking I'm playing a human.
In this
And
given
so
circumstance.
you do the work obviously, but then you have to forget it because you're wanting to get to the truth of the situation, and
Find the parallels with these states.
yeah,
and-
like losing your family or your husband dying, anything like that, we can all relate to something along those lines. It's about finding the commonality regardless of time.
And as we were saying, like, gauging the tone of it, and also the characters are written very differently actually in the script, and piecing that together and seeing how we fit together. And
Y bueno, ella es como, al final ellas, bueno, son de Reino Unido, no son de Estocolmo, como cómo han interiorizado esa historia, cómo les ha ayudado a aprender algo sobre pues, la historia de Estocolmo.
Well, I've subsequently found out I'm 4% Scandi, so you know that's obviously what drew me to the project. But yeah, it was something that neither of us knew anything about, and it's been really fun. Yeah, we don't do Scandinavian history. It's very
part of this job is discovering things that you didn't know.
Yeah, and it's been a joy getting to know Stockholm more and the Swedish people and Danish people. It was a brilliant cast, and I think learning that there is also a shared sense of like very dark, dry humor was fun. Yeah.
Y bueno, ya como para terminar, me gustaría preguntarles qué esperan que la gente se lleve de esta película tras verla.
I don't believe in giving an audience a message because I think it's such a sorry. I think it's such a bonkers out there film. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's dark, it's humorous, it's historical, it's violent at moments. It's really emotional and about the women. And I think if there's anything to take away from it, it's about courage and perseverance, which anyone can relate to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.